you might be killing performance, right? So not thinking about performance is a big problem among students. Now, going on to other issues. So that is the programming and the SQL. Now, just generally about, I think I already touched upon this, just let me repeat. That one is that understanding of threads and synchronization sort of in a practical context, right? This is often missing, and companies love to ask these questions because this separates the people who understand from the people who don't, and then they would like the people who understand threads and synchronization. So read up on that. Don't understand hash tables practically, right? If I ask a question to students saying, you know, can you describe to me the features of hash tables? 90% of them will be able to give me like a one full page description of hash table and what is important in a hash table and what is a hash function and how it is used and collisions and, you know, all the theory they understand, right? But if I give them a problem where a hash table has to be used, okay, students don't. Students end up using arrays and nested for loops instead of using a hash table. So this whole theory understanding of hash tables is completely useless if you don't know when to use a hash table in real life, right? So that's, and all of that also comes from the fact that people don't care about performance, right? You have to know the fact that an algorithm is order n square if you have two nested for loops, right? Whereas if you use a hash table, the same algorithm can be converted to an order n. And there's a huge difference between order n and order n square, right? In industry, again, it is very rare that you would be using an order n square algorithm for anything, because that will just cause things to die in the software, and it will just be too slow and not acceptable. Okay. Similarly, just not using the right data structures. Same thing, as in you learnt arrays, most of your programming examples are arrays, and you understand data structures in theory. You have answered those questions like with paragraphs of theory in your papers, but you have never actually used most of them in projects, right? So that ends the campus test part of the talk. I'm going to quickly talk about a few other kinds of problems that happen in actual interviews, and then I will open up for questions. Okay. So first of all, I mean, one of the things that companies really like to ask about is the project, because they think that is one of the most important things in the student, because like I said, everybody is very good at theory, but theory is not all that helpful if you can't combine it with you know, practical usage. And the only substantial practical thing you will have done in your engineering is the project. Now here is the problem, right? All companies know that if 4 people did the project, there is a high chance that only 1 or 2 of them did the actual work, and 1 or 2 of them did not do anything. Okay, I'm not saying all projects are like that, but all of you know that a significant fraction of projects are like that. And again, companies are not stupid, right? So they can tell by asking questions about the project, they can tell which person did the work and which person did not do the work. So do the work, okay? Do the work, because I mean, if you know your partner does all the work, and then last 2 days before the interviews, your partner explains everything to you, you are still not going to be able to answer questions about the project very well. Okay, so don't be the person who says, I will do the presentation, you do the work, because ultimately the company figures it out and it will cause problems during the interview. Because what companies like to do is ask you what is the project, and then ask you, why did you do this? Why didn't you do that? What would you have done if the situation was XYZ? Keep making some changes in the project description and see how you respond to that. And if you have done the project and if you have done it well, you would be able to answer those questions. If not, you will fumble. Okay, and that brings us up to this thing, which is communication skills. Okay, and there is a misconception that communication skills means, good English and good grammar and being able to speak, sophisticated English. That is not really true. Okay, in some interviews for some companies, they are looking for English skills, but a lot of them don't really care that much. What they care is whether you are able to get your ideas across properly. And for that, you need to be practiced at, explaining things to others. And one of the easiest ways I have found of improving your communication skill is that whatever your BE project, right, try to explain it to a non-technical person. So if your mother is a non-technical person, try to explain to her, what is your project? What are you doing in that project? Why is this hard? Right? Why is this not something very simple to do? And if you are able to explain it to your mother, I can guarantee you that you will do a much better job in your interview than if not. I mean, you might think that explaining to a non-technical person is impossible. That is not true. You might think that explaining to a non-technical person, you are going to remove all the technical things. So then that explanation is useless and it is not going to help you in technical interviews. That is also not true. If you are able to explain to a non-technical person, it improves your understanding of your own project, because most people, the problem with communication skills is that the idea is not clear in their own head. That is why they are not able to explain it properly. Okay. So based on all of this, the general trends, the big picture that I have noticed is that, one, there is a big difference between theory and practical. Our colleges are very good at teaching you the theory and not so good at teaching you practical aspects. So if you want to stand out in your interviews, right, increase the amount of practical work that you're doing from now until the time you're in the job market. The same thing stated slightly differently, that just because you understand something doesn't mean you know how to use it. Just you understand all the details of the hash table doesn't mean that you recognize where hash table is the right to use. And there is a difference between college and real life, right? College about they need to be fair to you and they need to partial mark to give you the right amount of. There's exams with like a fixed time and the timer ends in 1.5 hours or whatever, right? Whereas life, none of the lie. Real life partial marks, it wants working code. Real life usually, right? You have enough time, you can go, you can learn, you can ask people for help, but ultimately you have to do the yourself. And company doesn't solve anything in real life. The real life is looking for results, not for users. Okay. And what should you do? One is start doing real programming. Okay. Not the little toy things that they make you do in, but take a actual project. In fact, it would be much better if you do a side project for something that is not required as a part of your, okay. If you have a side project, programming project like this on your resume, companies will give you far more importance than somebody who has written, is a far more employee than somebody who hasn't done that. Most of the problems that I talked about today will disappear if you have done a side project. And the thing is that if you are doing it for fun, then you will actually learn more as opposed to doing something because for your degree. Okay. And one thing you have to do is just do a lot of okay, not your textbooks, not the theory, but practical things from articles on the internet, websites, Stack, mailing, you should be and follow good programmers, right? Lot of reading, all of that gives you an understanding what is important in the real and what is not. Because in the college, nobody knows that. It's very easy to get that information from it. And learn typing. The reason I told you about bad variable names, the reason why so many students use these single letter things, single letter variable names, is because you are not typing far, right? So let me stop, open up for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen. So we have several questions coming in. So
yeah,
I will start with Viraj Kumar actually. His question is, does an auto-grading system that evaluates code against test cases encourage students to write code that passes that test cases by hook or crook? If so, what can be done to help students learn?
Yeah. So the thing is that in theory, that is what might happen, but in reality, what I am noticing is that I mean, it only the question usually doesn't give all the test cases that are going to be tried against code, right? The question usually gives just one or two examples, and there are students who will just try to pass those, get those one or two examples working by hook or by crook. But as long as you let them know that those are not the only test cases and there is a large number of test cases in the background, and you don't tell them which test cases are going to be run and which are going to pass and fail, then that should encourage them to write up, to think of all the possible cases where it can go wrong, to write code that works without focusing too much on the test cases.
Yeah, next question is, best book for learning programming except let us see.
Except, sorry, what?
Except let us see.
So, yeah. So, actually, I would say that, you know, programming can't really be learned from a book, right? As in the secondary. What's important is that you need to pick a substantial project and then learn programming while trying to complete the project, right? If you are learning programming from a book, the book will have examples like, okay, let's write a Fahrenheit degree, Celsius converter, and so on. Those are boring examples. Don't teach you the real things, what is really important and not important. And learning from a book ultimately the same problem, which is that you are learning theory, not practical. Whereas if you pick a project, something that you're doing for fun. I mean, if you are interested in guitar, write a program to do guitar tablature of some sort, right? Or find and download guitar information from the internet. That will teach you far more. And then while doing that, it doesn't matter which textbook you use, just learn from the manual directly, learn from, you know, just type your question and see which sites come up. Usually it is Stack Overflow and read examples from Stack Overflow. So you should be learning from many different sources, not from one textbook. Next.
Yeah. So next question is again during about the projects. How many projects should be with us during the interview, and what should be the complexity of the project?
Okay, so I mean, see, basically just 2 projects are enough, right? One is your BE project itself needs to be there, and it needs to be a good, complicated, right? The number of students management system or student youth management system, it is those same doing 30 years ago, and they're lame. They don't teach you anything, and are not interested in those projects. Substantial, something different, and that is one. your BE, if you have done one project fun, something that is not required for your course, enough. More than 2 is not really needed. But make sure that not something real, not something you can do in one day, right? It has to be something that took longer.
Yeah, Naveen, there are many questions about internships. So how companies evaluate the internships, and also what is important, project or internship?
Okay, so first of all, I mean, students are under the impression that to learn something, okay, and that be true of 5 month, 6 month internships. Most cases, a 2 month internship, summer internship, in a majority of cases, you don't think very useful, because by the time you just learn the project and what the company's rules and just be able to be useful, it is time for you to leave. So most such companies which take summer interns, they are treating it as an extended job interview, right? So in terms of getting a job with that company, the internship is extremely good, right? Because that is an excellent job interview. If you are any good, you will do a good job over the 2 months and want to hire you. But if in terms of in terms of your job search later on, the internship is not very useful, because if the company which gave you an internship is not willing to give you a job, then I would worry about your capabilities. That is one. And second is that with the number of students who do a fake internship, anyway, it is difficult for me to tell whether this is a real internship or not, right? So I would say that a fun project done on the side is far more important from, unless you get an internship with a company where you are actually interested as an excellent. Who they select for an internship, all companies select simply based on and so on. Larger companies, same procedure as campus reviews. So there will be a campus test followed by reviews, and based on that they make interns. Same thing be projects also.
Yeah. Next question is, can we use Python language to answer questions related to algorithms in interview? And will it be an advantage or disadvantage? Okay.
So, first of all, advantages and disadvantages, right? I think that Python is really good language, especially for doing algorithms done, right? Because in Python, you don't have a lot of code. I mean, you don't have to do type declarations, and lot of things are available to you in the libraries and so on. So it is a very easy language to write code in and get something done very quickly. So in terms of learning, in terms of doing substantial projects, Python is a great language, right? Now, in terms of whether that is going to be acceptable in an interview or not, it really depends from company to company, right? Some companies insist that their work is in Java, so you should know Java, right? Whereas some companies are happy to see that, their view is that if somebody bothered to learn Python, then that must be a good student. So they will actually give higher weightage Python. So it's some companies will give Python, whereas some companies will want you still be able to write in Java. But if you have done the project for fun that I was talking about, it is completely okay to have that in Python.
Yeah. So next question is, does one require to have detailed knowledge of software tools for the interviews?
So it is not required, but if you know something about tools, that's right. Most students don't know, and that is why most companies will not be expecting it. They will not even ask too many about it. But if somehow you are able to use, know that information, you are able to answer questions related, use that in some of your answers. Next.
So can you please suggest some fun project topics?
So see, the idea of one project should be that you are personally interested in, because the projects is that you will start one project, do a good job of it. You have continue working on it for 6 months, 8, 9 months, or something like that. And as the workload in your college in with something else, there is a tendency to stop it, right? Because it is now, you're pressed for time. So if you are actually interested in yourself and you would like to do, a chance that you will continue month period. So it is very important that you pick something in an area of your interest. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be Hindi movies, it can be dance, it can be related to, write a Android app which you use on your own phone to do something. It can be related to downloading stuff from Facebook or Twitter using the API. It can be anything. Just, try to pick something which can be to a non-technical person interesting. Unless you are yourself deeply interested in techniques and you want to write a dev or do some kernel program, no need to try to very computer science, a non-computer topic and do that project. But try to, the important thing is to keep working on it for a long time.
Yeah.
Next question.
Next question is, students focus generally on current trends only rather than the basic programming language. So how much it will help in the selection?
Oh, it's a very bad idea to focus much on the trends, right? Because, trends change in the industry. That is one. And second is that the companies themselves which are hiring are not necessarily in touch with the current trends, right? So at any one time, even right now, there are some companies hiring for C, some companies hiring for Java, some companies do something in Android, some companies looking to do something in React, some companies to do something in Scala, and so on, right? Just it is all over the place. And if you try to optimize based on current trends, one is you don't know what to target. The company that comes might not be interested in that trend, or by the time you are in the job market, the trend might have changed. So don't focus on trends. Focus on the fundamentals, and the trends will take care of themselves.
Yeah. Next question is certification needed? Next question is certification is needed for the programming language?
I am not a big believer in certification. Understanding there are a few companies who importance to that certification, but companies I not give important certification, right? As in, if you got a certificate from some local thing that you have certified for so and so programming. On the other hand, if you are doing Coursera, right, and not for a specific programming language, but for top general, say machine analytics or something like that, right? Then certificates do, because those are not certificates of a language; those are certificates of a trick you have learned. So those have a little means. Others are so important. Being able to a project you have done in that language is far more important than certification. Next question.
Yeah. Next question is non-IT projects are considered in the interview for IT sector?
So depends on the company. So I know companies give a lot of weightage to non-IT or a well-rounded individual. And my feeling is that a good company will do that, but it is not necessary that all companies are like that, right? So, I mean, the answer is it really depends on companies, your target, and so on. But I would personally say that you should go for it. If you feel passionate about subject, you should go ahead and do it. Don't worry about the company is going to give importance to it or not. Sooner or later, it gets recognized somewhere. You know, here karmanyavadi karaste is a heuristic to use.
Yeah. Next question is, I am good in programming. How can I improve?
So the 2-3 things to improve programming are, I mean, what I said here, right? Keep learning. This slide, which is up here on the screen. If you just keep reading there, I mean, one is that you keep programming. Every time you write a new program, your programming improves a little bit, but that by itself is not enough. You have to keep in touch with what the good programmers are saying. If you're looking at Stack Overflow, if you're doing Coursera course, if you're reading Hacker News, if you are on Reddit, in the programming subreddits, all of these things, or, you know, blogs and Twitter related programming, in all of these, you will keep hearing about the typical things that are needed for a good programmer, and you will keep, right? So, I mean, keep learning is the important part. Keep programming, keep learning, keep finding this learning practical, and you will improve. Next question.
Yeah. Next question is, what will you prefer, a student with good research paper or a student with good project?
Okay. So here's a simple answer, right? Except a few top IITs, ISC, and maybe 1 or 2 other colleges, there is no real research going on just at the level, right? If you get something published in IEEE, something out of, you know, a small town in India, that research. Okay, research is when you have worked with a researcher known in the field, published in the top international journals, and under their guidance, you have done something substantial, then that is research. Okay, if you have a paper like that, then that is more important than anything else. But 99% of what students mean when they say research is that something and they published it in some, you know, no-name conference, and that doesn't qualify at all. I would say it's just a complete waste of time. Question?
Yeah, we have many questions, but we are limited by time. So, Naveen, we'll take the last question.
Yeah.
Your advice for those students who are already placed and are in 4th year currently?
Okay. So, important advice is that just because you are placed, your learning doesn't stop. Okay. Now, there is no longer a college and a syllabus, right? But the point is that right now you still know only 10% of what you are supposed to. Okay. Learning is a lifelong thing. That is one. And now suddenly nobody pushing you to do it. In most companies, right? The company, unfortunately, doesn't really put too much effort into ensuring that you learn the right things. Okay. They will teach you the things that are needed for you to learn job properly. But that learning is not enough. So the most important thing is for you to keep learning, and it's the same. Whatever the side shown on the previous slides, if you keep right, you will keep getting an idea of what you should be learning, what is important in the industry, and you have to keep learning, right? So somebody had asked me that, oh, should I learn this? I only know Java right now? Should I learn some other language? And the answer is yes, you should be learning everything. Whenever some new language comes up and a lot are talking about it, I go and I spend time to try to learn it myself. And I create a folder in my on my computer for that language. And before this talk, I checked that folder that has 113 entries, that folder, right? So the point is you have to keep learning, and it is now your responsibility. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So that is the most important.
So thank you very much, Naveen, for an excellent talk.
Is that I am given my this that up here I have given my information, and I am happy to continue answering questions. If anybody is interested to me on Facebook or email, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can. Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to give some concluding remarks?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Naveen, for an excellent talk. I'm sure this will help all the students in their careers. So thank you all of you for attending and joining this particular webinar. If your question could not be taken up, please write to the email ID provided on the PDF deck, and Naveen will be happy to answer it. You can access this presentation and recording using the same registration link from tomorrow onwards. We are taking a small break in the next week, so we will not have the session in the next week, next Tuesday. So we'll come back again in the month of June with equally exciting sessions for you. Please look out for the announcement. Until then, goodbye and thank you.
All right. Thank you everybody for joining, and all those who took the test online. Thanks. The data